Hey Magic Makers, Mombierella here at Conroe. I'm a little late for the panel, but let's go check out the Food Wars panel. Come on.
Any other questions, especially from our new audience members who have walked in? We've been talking about favorite animes and food and cool stuff.
You can also ask us about is wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon. You can ask us about
any show doesn't have to be Food Wars.
What was your favorite series, or like, what was your favorite episode from Food Wars?
Food Wars.
my episodes.
My episodes.
Something that doesn't have to do with your episodes.
Well, that's.
Well, I don't care about them.
Well, the moment the bento box.
So my episode.
Your episode was bento box. It's really, really cool because that's one of the coolest dishes in the show series. Period.
That's Blake Shepherd's
Hands
favorite.
down. Yes, great. That's amazing.
Actually.
Yeah. If you know what that is, it's a. How do I describe it? You probably describe it better than me. It's when each one of the
They each taste different, and
Right.
they each elevate
complement each other.
the flavor with each bite that you take. And actually, it's funny, Blake's favorite character is Alice Nockery, and mine is Soma.
All right.
And that's our favorite episode, is that one when they're battling and doing the bento boxes. I think it's just the colors and the way they describe it. There's just something about that really kind of stuck out. But I'm trying to think of the other episodes that I like. Whenever I think Soma gets introduced to Erina, and he just does that really simple apple and rice dish.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever he's like, I'm gonna get into this school, and she's like, you're not worthy, and blows her socks off, literally, and everything
She just doesn't
else.
want to admit it.
Yeah.
There's some pretty deep episodes with some of your family members, the characters who were your
Oh yeah, the Uncle Osme.
Yeah,
Whenever I'm like yelling at him.
Yeah, you had to read him the riot act.
I love the way it ended because she's like giving him this really long dramatic speech, and she's like, so I just want to say, I hate you, like at the very end of this very long speech, and everybody's just like, what? Yeah, but that was fun.
I really liked the episode in season 3 when they're on the train, and I guess it's tertiarily about my character as well, but it's whenever it's Takumi and Soma and Megumi versus Erina, or I think I mixed it up. But there's the two different teams, and then the whole thing is that they're supposed to work together as a team without saying any words, and then by the end of it, both of the teams think the other person did a better job. Thinks the other team did the better job, and I just thought that was a really cool concept and execution personally.
I always enjoy when they're messing with Aaron and Knockery. The combo of our main of Blake and Stephanie Whittles is a fun. They're just always at each other in a perfect little way. And one of my favorite episodes is actually one of the dishes I'm not even sure if I want to eat, but they're making the terrine. And Megumi is basically going to lose, and then they kind of reshape, have them kind of almost do a rematch, and it's against I forget his name, but he's kind of the biggest dillweed in the whole thing. It's that chef everyone loves to hate.
Glasses?
Kojiro?
Oh, Ben McLaughlin's character?
Yes.
I can't remember.
Kojima, something like that.
Koji something.
I get mixed up.
There's a lot of names. We see a lot of names, and we say a lot of names, and so we recognize faces and features a lot more than names sometimes.
I mean, I guess I would try the terrine if someone did it. It's very intricate little, fun to remember that one. It's like a little almost checkerboard of different vegetables and
I think I remember.
Did you have a question earlier? I think you raised your hand.
I did actually. My question was, does anybody on the show actually cook like in real life?
I missed me saying at the beginning that I do not cook.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I miss this one?
I'm kind of like in the middle ground. I can follow if I'm not feeling too lazy. I can follow a recipe, but I don't really do it for fun or enjoyment.
I will never chop vegetables. I'm too afraid to cut my fingers.
Do y'all have anything from the show that inspired you to want to try it because of the show?
The risotto stuffed quail that is in one episode. I could not believe that even existed, but it does. And I want to eat it. So I'd love to be able to do that.
I want to eat everything, so honestly, I love good food.
Yep.
Yeah.
I really want to try the one. It was like a rice bowl that Soma made with. Because I like rice, I like butter, I like chicken and stuff. So it was like rice with the congealed chicken broth and the egg, and it just looked really good. I want to try that.
Yeah, the heat of the rice melts
the
the
chicken
shield
broth.
oozes down into it. And that first dish, the potato wrapped in bacon. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
How could you possibly go wrong?
The fake roast.
Yeah. The gotcha pot, what was it? Gotcha pot roast?
Something like that.
That thing.
I'm hungry now.
Right.
Is there like Grubhub that you can send it to?
Actually,
I think,
there
yeah,
is.
that's
Just don't
Cracker
here.
Barrel's got a risotto stuffed quail, don't they?
I almost believed you for 1 second. I was like, when did that happen?
If they do, we
What?
have some pancakes.
Really good biscuits.
Any more questions?
Oh, yeah.
I have one for Falco. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
Do you think that in Attack on Titan, Eren is a good person?
I think the show is more complex than good versus bad. I think everybody, and she's a big fan of the show as well.
I'm a huge fan of the show. I can talk about it for forever because I have so many ideas and theories.
That's what I like about it is it's not like this person's the good guy, this person's the bad. Everybody has their own complicated, intricate reasons for doing what they do,
Yeah.
and really it's up to the viewer and the characters themselves to decide like how far they're willing to go to protect what they believe in and what the people that they love and care for. Eren just happens to feel very strongly that what he's doing is what he has to do for the people he loves. But even some of the people he loves is like, no, you're going too far. We have to stop you and all that stuff. So that's what I kind of like about that show is it's not so black and white like a lot of shows tend to be.
Yeah, and I think like the trauma is different for everybody and their experience and how they deal with it, and his is just way more extreme, you know. So I personally love Eren, and I think that he's just a
Drama?
no. I think I can see why someone would do the things that he's doing because
These later episodes.
for a long time, like these people were eradicating his entire family and friends have been killed, and his mom was killed right in front of him. And
That sounds like an anime.
yeah, like when you have that kind of experience, like sometimes you become a really angry person.
Mm-hmm.
So some people think he's just a drama queen, but I disagree. So,
It's a much deeper show than that to just have somebody be a drama.
but I love that show.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
I'm not even in it. I'm like,
When
hold on.
when I first got cast in the show, she was so excited.
I was like, what? I got so excited.
But no, yeah, I love working on that show. It's been amazing.
Poor Falco.
Yeah. He's always caught between a rock and a hard place. Yes.
So y'all probably get asked this every time, but you mentioned earlier at 13, you
Yeah.
didn't know you're going to do voice acting. She's turning 13 next month. She's all about anime. And she's considered, hey Dad, I might want to do some voice acting. I love this. In doing the research, there's a lot of folks that go to University of North Texas. There's Funimation here. There's lots of resources. What would you give to someone who is thinking about getting into your industry as the next generation?
Most people, well, it's a very different industry than it used to be. At least when I this is gonna bring up a joke. 25 years ago.
That was 25 years ago.
That's the bill. No, it was a long running joke. So when I first auditioned, it was ADV Films had tons of licensing for lots of anime, and anime had not exploded in any way, shape, or form yet, and they didn't have any actors to do these roles. So they put out open call auditions every couple of months. You could do an open audition, and all these Houston theater actors, I was one of them, went to one of these auditions, and I just met the director, and he had me, put me in a booth and said, try this, and I got a couple of small roles, and then just built from there. And then you met the other directors in the studio, and word gets around that you can do a good job or whatever, and you just keep building from there. And so it's very different today. And Kyle can probably speak to this a lot better than I can about how someone would go about getting a reel to a studio. Or Kyle, I think you went to the league auditions at one point. And you listened
That's
to
how I did it.
Yeah, okay. There's something called the league auditions in Houston.
Alliance.
Alliance auditions.
I was like, what?
Alliance science auditions happen every year in Houston, where every director and board members from different theaters all over Houston, because Houston's a huge theater town, they all converge into one space for a weekend, and it's pretty nerve-wracking, but you go do auditions, you do a couple of minute-long pieces, and I think Kyle went and heard some voices and met Bryson there and said, hey, have you ever done anime? Because it's really about the acting more than the voice. And a lot of actors will tell you, a lot of voice actors I think will tell you this, you've got to have improv skills, and you've got to be able to come up with things on the fly, and I'll let other people speak to this too, but take acting classes, take improv classes, do things with your friends, get creative juices flowing, because that's where the real acting comes from, behind the voice that you put.
Was that like back in the day when they had like ads and auditions in the Penny Saver?
Leave me alone.
I'll leave you alone.
I was reading the newspaper this morning.
They said, you want to be in a cartoon?
Cartoons can talk.
Did you have anything, or did you want to?
Oh, about
Any advice or anything?
I never thought I would get to do what we all do now. I was a military brat. I lived all over the country, and I was living in Del Rio, Texas whenever I was watching Inuyasha back then, and never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now, but I did acting in high school, like I did plays, and I auditioned for a program, and I got my bachelor's in acting, and I was in the right place at the right time. My friend Leraldo, who was also in Food Wars, sent me an email saying, hey, Sentai Filmworks or Acer Media is doing auditions, you should go. And I did, and now I work there sometimes. So, I love it.
Yeah.
So.
And in following up on what John was saying about how things are a little bit different now, I think one of the best things about today's market is that the internet has so many resources for people who are just starting and just trying to get involved. And that's honestly how I was able to get a lot of the experience I had before doing this professionally. Because I also had the background in theater. I was doing it all through high school, college. I got the bachelor's for acting and directing as well. But a lot of my experience, a lot of my ability to translate that theater experience to voiceover was the fact that I was doing those online, like amateur animations and stuff for places like YouTube, Newgrounds, and all that stuff. All throughout that time as well. So I was getting that experience doing both. And I think one of the things that I always recommend to people who are wanting to get that experience is taking, like you said, taking acting classes for theater, but also if theater isn't really your thing, I think it is still also just great to try and take voice acting classes as well from reputable teachers. And also just doing it. Just like, there's a website I always recommend called Voice Acting Club. It links to a Discord server, voiceactingclub.com, and it's a community of people from complete beginner to full-on professional. It's run by an actress named Kira Buckland, and she lives out in LA, and she's done a ton of stuff. JoJo's, Nier Automata, a bunch of stuff. Blue Exorcist. She's in everything. Yashikime. And it's just, I think it's a great resource. That's one of the resources I used when I was like 14, 15, still trying to figure out what to do. And it's become an even more, I feel like it's even better now than it was when I was using it. And so I think that's a really good resource to get a lot of information. Kira herself has posted multiple articles on that website and on that sort of server about like how to go about doing certain different things, like what you should look for in making your first demo, or what you should look for when trying to gain experience on these like smaller projects and stuff. So that's one of the things that
I didn't really know that existed. Coming from the director's side, I'm looking to hire voice actors. They're all certainly right as far as you need to be an actor first, and then the voice acting is just one sliver of a range of skills. Mm-hmm. And so you might find that, I'm better at on camera, or I'm better holding the boom mic. Get out there involved in productions in any way. Then you'll know how to work. We have guys who are sound engineers that were, I'm a fan of anime. How do I get in there? So they find something that they enjoy doing. That's also part of anime that may not be the voice acting. Like I love those overnight film festivals because where you make a movie in 48 hours or what have you. And then you've tried different things within a production. And some of it does include ADR. I've been in many of a dirty closet fixing a line. And then so you may find out there's just something else that, just hits you right in the, third eye, and you go, that's what I want to do.
Kyle, how does, if someone has taken acting classes and they have a range and they want to put a reel together, is there some avenue that works better than others these days to get the attention of directors at anime studios?
Right now, I would say there is not really. I mean, you definitely want to get your own reel together, post it somewhere easy to
Google
get
Drive.
to it.
Yeah, and
And,
all
an
the
email.
Referrals, and that's where those little festivals come in. You start to meet people in just in the production
making
universe.
connections. Yeah.
Yeah, then you can skip those stones to find your way to get on someone's email.
I did Hollow Plays because last year in 6th grade I played King Julian in Madagascar.
Nice,
Oh,
So
nice.
that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I got face paint, I was sweating, but it was me. Jazz hands everywhere.
And you're really young too, so you have all the time. I feel like I'm in the same way. I started wanting to do this when I was like 14. So I was all throughout high school and all that stuff, just getting as much experience and improvement as I can. So you have time on your side. You've got all the time in the world.
When I was your age, I was linking two VCRs together, recording the news, and then playing it through from a microphone to the other one, and we
Making goofy.
Yeah, we would just goof
Where are you
around.
going?
And I was before I did anime at ADV, I was 30. Before I did my first voiceover for anime, I was 30 years old.
You wanted to say something.
Oh, no, learning your range also is really important.
Yes.
Bryson and I both sing, and I think that also just helps you to learn like how high you can go, how low you can go.
Vocal control. Right?
Yeah, learning how to breathe is
How to
really
scream without hurting yourself.
Yeah, it's really important. So I would recommend taking singing lessons because then you can see how high you can sing and how low you can go, and you learn where you're most comfortable at.
And you don't have to be like a Beyonce level.
No,
best
you don't even have to be. It's not
It's
about being a singer. It's just about learning
learning
your
to
range
control your
Yeah.
instrument.
and
Yeah,
protecting
know
your
where
voice
you lie.
because it gets really tiring. So.
I know with all.
Because you guys do a lot of yelling too, like
Yes.
you guys are doing like a shonen anime or like just straight up like.
Well,
you
I
guys
think
sit through-
people forget that your vocal cords, they're a muscle.
Mm.
And when you work out for 4 hours, that's a lot of time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Saint Seiya, it's 90% me getting beat
Yeah.
up. 10%,
Yeah.
and then 10% me going, I
I usually try not to book more than 2 hours at a time.
win. Yeah.
And depending on the role, I mean, if it's just a role where I'm just using my voice like this, I'll talk as long as you want. But it's still, it's not just vocally exhausting, but it's also kind of mentally challenging after a couple of hours. Because when you go into an anime studio, you're literally looking at a split screen, computer screen these days that has the Japanese animation on the one side and the English script on the other side. You're matching these lip flaps while you're reading lines at the same time that you've never seen before. And you've had no time to rehearse the
I just
script.
do this.
No.
Scroll
Yeah.
the script.
unless you're John Swayze and you're sitting there on your phone, you're like, oh shit, sorry. And you're like, where's the fucking script? Sorry, excuse me. But, hello? Where you at? It's like, I'm just like, da-da-da-da-da.
Be alright.
Yeah.
Why'd you stop? Well, I stopped because you weren't scrolling, so.
And he does it.
Oh, yeah. What'd you say? What?
So yes, as you can see, there's lots of challenges in the studio. So having good improvisation skills is really good to have because you can think on your feet really quickly. And if you've got a lot of practice coming up with different kinds of, you go to the studio and you look at the character for the first time often and you say, what do I think this person sounds like? And you can go off with a Japanese actor, you can come up with a different voice, and you work with the director to try to find where that person's voice will sit. And usually, sometimes when I come up with a new voice, when I go into the studio and I'm fresh and I haven't gotten into the zone yet, we'll often go back sometimes and make sure that the first few lines I read sound like what happens later. Because as you get into the session, you kind of get into a different zone, you get comfortable with it. So sometimes we go back and say, can I hear my first line again? Because it may not sound like I'm sounding now. And you don't want to sound like two different characters.
And even in the morning, just a voice can change in and out.
Yeah, if you've had your coffee and you're like, okay, what are we doing? You start going 2
I
hours
woke up
later.
30 minutes ago.
I don't know.
a lot of different plates to spin at the same time. So having some real improvisation skills helps a lot.
I sound perfect all the time, so that's never a problem.
Can't relate. I'm amazing. Yeah, and he touched on it. Like cold reading is very important as well. So I
I
just
was
say
going to say cold reading
get
is
in
the
the habit of
biggest.
reading regularly out loud, not just reading like in your head. Say the words out loud and get used to how it feels.
Have any younger siblings?
Yeah. Record yourself too.
Yeah,
Record yourself.
storybooks.
You can hear the way your own voice sounds, because that's often not what when you hear yourself back. It sounds like different than what you may think in your head is happening.
Good practice. For people that have the pause words like ums and ahs, how do you get out of that, like, as voice actor?
I literally just did it. Whenever I'm just speaking off the cuff, I tend to do that a lot too. I use those filler words and stuff. It's a lot easier when you have a piece of paper that tells you what to say. So it's easier to just follow what it says.
Because I'm in telemarketing, and sometimes when you're talking with customers, it's been like 4, 5, 6 hours, you start going.
Brain falls out. We do this. We take pretty frequent breaks just to walk it off, and I call it taking a lap. And just to look at something far away.
Yeah, and but sometimes it depends on the characters too, because if we're doing like really hyper stuff, like I just worked on a show with Kyle called The Demon Girl Next Door, and it is wild. Sometimes they're like all the way up here, and then they come down here and it's like this, and then it's down here like this, and it's back up here like this. And that's like, imagine recording that for 4 hours. Like that's a lot. So it's a lot of work.
When it comes to like not like speaking like we were talking about, like constantly like I'm doing right now. I feel like the only time that really becomes a big issue for me, at least, is in sessions where it's mostly what's called walla and like extra voices, where you don't really have scripted lines. It's like, here's the scenario, you're part of this little group, and just make stuff up that like fits
So
the
you have
scene.
to basically improvise an action.
Yeah,
that's
so-
when
and
your
that's like you
your
said.
acting comes into play. Like, oh, okay,
Exactly.
so I'm in this situation. So what would I do in this situation?
What would you say? Yeah.
Right, it's we're over here at the restaurant, there's a bomb explodes across the street. It's not just one thing you're gonna do. First there's gonna be the surprise that a bomb exploded, but then you're gonna start asking what's going on. So it goes from so it has to have a feeling to it. And half time when I'm in there doing it, I'm not even saying real words, I'm just making the kind of tone that would encompass. If people are whispering, then you just and I know some people throw their headphones on and really try to find out what people are saying. And you wouldn't be surprised with some of the conversations that people have. Like if you're in a wall session and there is somebody in there really talking about something, you can just use that as inspiration and bounce back off of where you're saying cafeteria chatting, and somebody will go, "Oh, did you do your homework today?" "Oh, I didn't, because Miss blah 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 said that it was coming in blah blah." And so you go, "Oh, I'm going to talk about homework."
A lot of people, they said when I talk or whatever, like I'm trying to say it so fast, where like that's where I get all the pause words. So I'm just seeing as voice actors how you guys like when you do your lines and like how not to like just be normal conversation basically.
Well, I write in a lot of those words.
I tend to be a faster talker too, and so he ends up having to add words for me sometimes. But I try to, after years of doing it, I try to slow myself because I know that I naturally talk a little faster. So I'm gonna pace myself a little more evenly to kind of go with probably what the writer was intending for these reads and stuff.
Okay.
So I have to tell myself actively, like, okay, I'm gonna even myself out, maybe slow down a bit.
I get that a lot more with the newer actors that come in. They're just kind of nervous and have the nervous energy, and somebody's like, "I'm gonna start reading as fast as I can," and so you're like, "Oh, chill," you know. And part of it is to get in there. This is your voice, and you're the star right now for this sentence. Use it, eat it up. You know, don't try and get out of there as fast as you can. You know, make it your sentence.
Yeah. Getting comfortable.
One of my managers, I've noticed that he never does the but we learned like what does he do that he doesn't do that? And when he gets to that point, he elongates the word so it fills that gap. He elongates, and I've never heard him say or anything.
I do not have that skill.
Well, I'm working on it. At least I'm trying to work on it. Like,
I want the confidence of the people that can just stop and think about what they're about to say without feeling the need to like fill that silence and just like think about it and just.
You're doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You sound great.
But that was me trying my hardest to do it. I need that confidence to do it on the regular.
Trying to think of a person that does that really well. So, not me. But they're usually very slow talkers too.
Yeah.
They make you wait for what they're going to say next.
I think the weirdest thing, I think the hardest thing is.
Blake Shepard talks really slow.
Yeah. I think one of the weirdest things is if you're doing if you're dubbing live action.
Oh yeah.
I've done a couple of live action films, and that's a lot harder because it's not just lip flaps going like this. It's lip movements and shapes that shape certain vowels and things of that constant. And to try to get some of that correct in translation is what?
I was looking over at you, and then I saw that she was looking at me. I was like,
I was just looking at Bryson, looking at you. I don't know why. I think it's his shirt. I think I'm just really into the shirt.
Anyway,
It sticks out.
Yeah.
I just got my plain Jane red here. This is awesome. No, but I think that's weird. That's really weird. I once did a corporate video where I had to do the voiceover. Stop it. Never mind.
I'm listening. I'm more interested.
I had to do a corporate video for Shell Oil, and this guy was on a beach, but he's a Scottish dude, so he was talking about, here at Shell, we'll do this, we'll do that, and I had to do the American. They didn't want a Scottish guy, so they said, we want his voice to sound American. I said, you know that when you see this guy on screen and he goes, and his lips come out like that, I'm going to say, oh, and it's going to go, it's not going to look right. We did this, it took us 3 hours to redub this guy talking about Shell Oil on the beach. It was so silly. But yeah, I had to overdub an American accent to a live action Scottish dude. That was the weirdest.
Weird.
I started off, but my first jobs were live action stuff, like monster movies, kung fu movies, and things like that. And so I would write the scripts, destroy my VCR with rewinding as I was watching the line over and over again. But definitely a lot harder to do all the oohs and e's and the plosives and the ba-bas and things like that. And then there's just people who the voice just doesn't work. You can go, that person's face and that sound coming out just doesn't,
Too jarring.
doesn't, compute. So casting becomes a trickier thing. But then when they're one thing that is easier is you can trust your ears. In anime you can't because it doesn't match the lip flaps anyway. Coming out of Japan. Whereas if it's shot with live sound, then the original piece, then you know when that guy goes, if that's what his mouth's doing. So your line has to kind of sound and time out in that same sort of space. And that's wondering how I got around that.
It's a question for like all of you guys. What's the hardest accent for you to try to do?
Accent.
Yeah.
We don't do a ton of accents.
I have.
Yeah,
I've done a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's always with John Swayze too.
Oh.
Always with John.
I think Australian would have to be the toughest. Australians are really tough.
That one I feel okay with. So I start with Mel Gibson 2 days ago. I saw a rig that could hold that type guy. And then I'm there.
You look so natural doing that accent.
I need that line and then I can kind of go.
Yeah.
But
I kind of like that too.
But yeah, I try to go. If I switch it over to Scottish, then I get lost in the road and it falls
The
apart.
hardest accent I've ever done, just period, is South African because it changes. Sometimes it sounds Australian, sometimes it sounds like almost kind of French or German. It's got like this weird rough sound, and then it goes like back to Australian. It's a very hard accent. It's really hard.
I hear Welsh is the toughest.
And Welsh
English.
is really hard.
We did the Finland saga, and we had as Welsh and Icelandic, and we said, we'll do the English and the French. We're going to make that the American sounding folk, the Welsh and the Icelandic. Princess Principal, I don't know if you've seen that. It's British spies and they have to go all over Great Britain, so the spies have to change their accent or they'll be found out. And then you had Rachel Mester, who is a American from Oklahoma who speaks Japanese. She had to play a Japanese girl that came to England, doesn't speak English very well, has a thick Japanese accent, but it's got to be British English with a Japanese accent. So she's learning. Yeah. So that was pretty insane. Man, it's cool to watch it happen. Because she'll start saying something, go, no, that wouldn't.
That's why I kind of like English acting does, because like I see the hard work that you guys literally put in. So that's why I was just saying, like, I really like support the English cast a lot. So
It was nice. Yeah, we had to bring in a voice coach for that show.
It was really weird. When I first did Hawkeye Mihawk for One Piece a long time ago, we couldn't come up with a voice for him. Thank you. We couldn't come up with a voice necessarily for him. So I was talking to the director, and I had just seen a Harry Potter movie, and so I liked Snape. And so I can't do Alan Rickman necessarily, but Alan Rickman's comical voice. So then I took away the British, and it just sounded kind of nasal and sly. And that was Mihawk. And he said, "Okay, that sounds right." I was like, "Okay, good." We came up with formulate something and it works. And so because he's been recorded by a different studio as French, but he does not look French. And I didn't want to do him as a Spaniard like Inigo Montoya, so I wanted to do something different.
I love that accent. Should have done that one.
Oh.
Spanish accent is so nice and smooth sounding almost.
What's that?
The Spanish accent.
Jay Hickman, we were doing
Jay's brilliant accent.
he does a lot of great accents. We were doing a little silly farcical thing where it was made in India and takes place all over the Middle East, and we're done things. And he had a good grasp on, well, we're going to make this guy more Pakistani, and this guy more. He could regionalize, just not do just an Apu thing. He was able to do it without sounding offensive. Yeah. I didn't know what to tell him to do.
I haven't done a ton of accents on anime, but I remember one of my favorite stage experiences was when I was in junior college. We did a show called the Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon, where it was kind of like Shakespeare Abridged, where they tried to fit all the Grimm Brothers fairy tales into like one little short show.
Wow.
And the final scene is them doing Cinderella, but all of the joke is that all of the actors in the cast got sick from eating cake behind the stage, except one person. And I was the one person who didn't, so I had to do every character in Cinderella by myself. Doing Cinderella, the fairy godmother,
My cake is delicious, so that never would have happened.
I remember the way we would differentiate them was just do different pitches, but also different accents for different characters. So I would do like British for the prince, and then just like a high-pitched voice for Cinderella. There was like a bouncer to the ball who was Scottish, and he was just kind of like, if it ain't Scottish, it's crap. That one's one of my favorite ones. But I think Scottish is one that's very hard for me, and Australian, which comes so natural to you, it's very hard for me.
It looks like you were Australian. Do it. Like, I mean, you pulled that off.
It's kind of all Crocodile Dundee mixed.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of do whenever I get to the word no, they have this thing, no.
This is a knife.
This is a knife.
Well, it's yes.
I was wondering, what was y'all's reactions when it came to the food wars and the characters were so intrigued and amazed by the food that they just like...
I mean, the food Say it.
I was gonna say I already knew what the show was before going into it, because around the time that we'd started working on it, it was already getting memed on like Facebook and Twitter and stuff. And so I was like, oh, so that's that show. And then they called me saying, do you want to be in Food Wars? And I'm like, okay.
Oh my god.
My character in particular, though, Takumi, he's very cool and collected, so he doesn't do it a whole lot. But when he does do it, he's just kind of like, ugh. It's usually the women in the show and maybe some of the guys here and
My
there. that
character,
get the fun ones.
my character, the French chef, he never had an actual one of those. He was all of a sudden covered in honey because it was, the honey, made the flavor of the steak better. So he just went, "C'est merveilleux," meaning it was a marvelous. It was weird, but I didn't know anything about it beforehand, like Bryson did. Like, what's on?
That was part of the fun directing it. Is if someone didn't know what was happening, then I was gonna not let them know until.
Surprise.
Didn't you say Jay talked about it at Anime Houston how he didn't know what the show was because
Yeah, he
from
was
his
watching with his
perspective-
kids. He goes,
Oh my
"It's a
God.
cooking show," and when you're in the booth, you only see the part you're in, and his character isn't a never, because he's the dad, the cool dad with the hair.
In the first season, he's barely there.
Yeah, he's on the phone and stuff. So he's like, "Oh, it's a sweet story about Moena's son, and he's sending him off to culinary school because that's all he saw." Then he watched it with his kids and had to whoa. But I didn't know when the first time I watched it. I can show you, pantomime my reaction. I'm watching it for the first time in that first episode. We eat the gotcha hot roast, and then wham, clothes are flying off, and I remember, I've got my little clipboard notes, and what is this rated? That was my first reaction.
Were there any other questions before we wrap it up? Because I think we got a couple more minutes left.
Yeah, it's one.
It's almost.
It's almost two,
Almost,
so.
yeah, it's not-
How about favorite foods? We'll start with you.
My favorite food? Oh gosh, the beef enchiladas I had last night across the hotel. Oh my gosh, no. She just rolls around. Okay.
I did.
So okay. So we were at a con, and I said, "Hey man, have you been to this place down the road? They have these breakfast tacos." And she went, "Oh my god, that's so basic."
Oh my god, it's garbage. That's what I was like. He was like, Rosa's Cafe. I heard their breakfast tacos are good. I was like, okay.
It's better than the hotel buffet.
Yeah.
I love breakfast tacos.
Not from Rosa's. I was like, it's like a chain.
No, my favorite food is duck confit. It's a French dish, and it's duck, and it's delicious, and it's insane.
Oh wow.
My favorite food is my great-great-grandmother's Italian meatball recipe.
Wow.
And they're like the perfect meatballs, and the pasta is just this. It's like an almost 100-year-old recipe. So I don't know how to describe it, but it's the best. So it's my favorite food.
I'm pretty basic myself. I get my favorite food is chicken Alfredo. Most places you can't really go wrong with it. Ironically, though, one of the fancier Italian places, Maggiano's, I don't like theirs. It tastes too sour. Somehow it tastes sour.
Maggiano's is overrated.
Too much salt, some lemon and stuff in there. But too sour, no bueno. Mine's pretty simple, but there are plenty of bad versions of it. But I just love pizza. You can make it in a different ways. But if I'm going to test out a pizza place, just get a pepperoni. And I don't want the floppy proper pepperoni. I want it cooked enough where it starts to curl up, get a little crunchy,
brown on the
be
edge.
sticky on my
Okay,
number.
so which one is the top restaurant?
The top delivery chain.
The best one, the best way to eat a pizza is at the joint.
Yeah.
Right when it comes out of the oven, because that box, I don't want it to taste like box, so I usually pick up pizza instead of having it delivered.
Yeah.
And so right when it comes out of the oven, I can get it there. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese, man.
Oh, yeah. Chuck E. Cheese.
Their pizza's not good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
From employee at Chuck E. Cheese to director of food board.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys
everybody.
for coming. Come to our tables, please say hi.
Yes, we
See
got-
our merch that we have.
All our tables out there for the next 2 or 3 hours before they shut us
Yeah,
down.
when are they
Yeah.
taking us out? 5.
At 5, yeah.
Thanks,
So
guys.
come on.
This is so awesome. I love getting to ask questions. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hey, take a second, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, comment down below, share with a friend. Just watching you sit there and try not to look at his shirt, though, was cracking me up. I'm sorry. I was like... let it go and keep moving forward. Have a magical day. Love you guys.